Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. If Secret Service can manage to keep President Trump alive up and through November 5th,
50 more days.
He's got another issue. This was a topic of conversation, recent episode of the All In podcast, which in this episode featured Peter Thiel, tech billionaire and Trump ally, but he's not participating financially in this election cycle. And he explained why. If an assassin's bullet can't get him, then maybe the Dems' fortification of electoral results will. Listen to Thiel.
If it is going to be close, by the way, if it's like going to be a razor-thin close election, then I'm pretty sure Kamala will win because they will cheat, they will fortify it, they will steal the ballots, and so you know if we can answer them
Interesting reaction.
In the event that it's close, I don't want to be involved. In the event that it's not close, I don't need to be involved. And so that's sort of a straightforward analysis right there.
Great jumping off point. How much cheating on a percentage basis do you think happens every year? How much, and do you think Trump actually won the last time?
You need to be careful with the verbs. So, cheating, stealing, that implies something happened in the dark of night.
Massaging.
I think the verb you're allowed to use is fortify.
We don't want to get canceled on YouTube.
Ballot harvesting. I mean, it was, it's all sort of, there were all these rule changes. It was sort of done in plain daylight. And, but yeah, I think our elections they're not perfectly clean. Otherwise, we could examine it. We could have vigorous debate about it.
Well, what would you change then? What should change? Because we all want everybody's votes to count. We want it to be clean. I'm talking about the audience.
I don't know. At a minimum, you'd try to run elections the same way you do it in every other Western democracy. You have one-day voting. You have practically no absentee ballots. You have and it's one day where everything happens. It's not this 2-month elongated process. That's the way you do it in every other country. You'd have some somewhat stronger voter ID and make sure that the people who are voting have a right to vote.
Make it a national holiday.
But that's basically what you do in every other Western democracy, and it used to be much more like that in the U.S. I mean, it's meaningfully decayed over the last 20, 30 years.
Meaningfully decayed. That's a description that fits a lot of institutions in America today as well. And by the way, if Trump does survive an assassination attempt,
a third one?
Or more, who knows, if he does survive the Democrats' fortification, boy, that Presidential Commission on Assassinations that RFK Jr. is going to chair is going to have a lot of work to do. Bill O'Reilly joins us now. He's the host of No Spin News, weeknights 5 p.m. Chicago time at BillO'Reilly.com. He's got a new book, Confronting the Presidents, No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden, that covers them all. Bill, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Appreciate having me, Dan. How you doing?
Good, great. What about, obviously the events of yesterday and even folding in what Peter Thiel is talking about his sort of hands-off approach to participation in this election, because if it's not close, he's not needed. And if it is close, there's nothing he can do about it. He doesn't want to be a part of it.
Well, I don't speculate about that. Each state controls its electoral process, as you know. There's never been a pure election in American history. There's always been shenanigans, as the nuns used to say when I was in third grade. Stop those shenanigans. I obviously believe that there has to be as much intense supervision as possible. The RNC says it's going to flood the zone and watch the precincts that are questionable, because they know over a period of time, Philadelphia, Detroit, places like that, where there's always seems to be a problem. Final point I make is that in the election 2000, when Bush beat Gore, Florida was a mess and had to go to the Supreme Court. They cleaned it up down there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they have a very effective electoral process. But if you're going to tell me that your state, Illinois, is going to clean up the election, I'm going to tell you Pritzker would never do that. He wants chaos.
Well, then Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, the state of Pennsylvania, they even said that, don't don't expect election results on the night of the election. And their early voting starts today.
And New York Times has said that nationally.
Yeah, they have to go and sort through the ballots that are all over the place, and it's ridiculous. And you should have two ballots. That's a absentee ballot if you can't vote, and then you should show up. That's it. But look, you got to deal with reality, and the reality is that there is a system of corruption that can be imposed if the governor and the state legislature allow it.
Right.
And they do.
Right. It's a political will problem. You see this going on with the disparate approach to cleaning the voter rolls. Ohio, Virginia, Texas are doing one thing, and a lot of other states are not doing that same thing in terms of the integrity of the voter list, just for example.
Exactly.
I wanted to get to your book. I mean, just sort of principally, one of the things it looks like you do in your book, which I think is important, is you can't look at presidents in isolation. You have to look at them in a continuum. You know, you don't get Barack Obama without. I mean, you don't get Trump without 8 years of Barack Obama. You didn't get Reagan without Jimmy Carter. And just speak to that a little bit about how you make assessments when you're looking at presidential performance.
Well, I mean, I assess by whether the man, all 45 of them, helped or hurt the country, and we present the record. But today, when we're all talking about the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump, confronting the presidents becomes even more important because there have been 9 assassination attempts on the American chief executives, 4 successful. Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, JFK. Reagan, a whisper, and he was dead. That's how close he came. We live in a dangerous country. We always have lived in a dangerous country. It's not going to become less dangerous. So the authorities that are assigned to protect presidents and candidates have to reassess that protection. And the Secret Service is a mess. Now, I'm not assigning blame. Their agents did a good job ferreting this guy out. But the conceptualization of presidential protection is got to be updated. Because believe me, the jihadists and Iran and China and Russia, they're watching this. And you can't get close to Putin or Xi. I mean, we live in a free society, and that makes it much, much more difficult to protect anybody. I understand that. But now this whole thing, this whole Secret Service operation has to be revamped and looked at it in a very critical way. I'm not blaming them. They did well by protecting President Trump on that golf course.
They did their job.
But we need to upgrade that big time.
Well, I mean, you know, it's not just Secret Service, of course. Secret Service in Department of Homeland Security, and look at the job Ali Mayorkas has done protecting the border. The sort of these law enforcement agencies at the federal level, they have not particularly distinguished themselves in recent time, except when it comes to prosecuting people for political reasons, starting with President Trump. I mean, this seems to me like that phrase that Peter Thiel used, the decaying that's going on, the decaying of these institutions. It's not just in terms of competence. It's also that they place political agendas ahead of their stated responsibilities in a way that seems different than in the recent past.
It's always been that way because they're all presidential appointments, the leaders of these operations. It's always been that way. J. Edgar Hoover is one of the most evil, corrupt individuals that's ever served the United States of America. And when you read Confronting the Presidents, you'll see how evil and see what he did with Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, it's not even close. The FBI today is not even close to being as corrupt as it was under Hoover. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but
let me make the point.
Go ahead.
So the professionals, the people who work as far as executing the policy, they are good across the board. It's not like we have a corrupt police force at the FBI level or the CIA level. We don't. And they did a magnificent job wiping out the jihad under Obama and Trump. And I chronicled that in Confronting the Presidents. Said we've been protected primarily from unbelievable danger for the past 23 years, and effectively protected. The problem comes when you get guys like Merrick Garland, who's only there because Biden appointed him and does exactly what Biden wants. You've seen his testimony in front of Congress. You can't get a weaker man than that. That's ridiculous. What about James Comey? How could Trump keep that guy in the job? That was Trump's fault. Mm-hmm. This guy was corrupt all day long, top to bottom. And it's not hard to ascertain that if you step back and you look. So the problem is that these presidents that are elected, they want people who are going to do what they say, and that's it. They don't want strong, independent people.
Well, in your book, Confronting the Presidents, who served the country's needs best?
Abraham Lincoln by far. Because the worst president, James Buchanan, was right before him. And Buchanan came into office and did absolutely nothing to tamp down the growing rebellion in the South. I have a letter from Harry Truman in my personal collection that says if Andrew Jackson had been president in 1856, there would not have been a civil war because Jackson would have gone down with federal forces and wiped out the budding rebellion very early. Buchanan was a coward, and that's why he's the worst president. No matter what Trump says, he calls Biden the worst president. Biden's the second worst president. Okay?
All right,
and the
so he's
reason
not far
I say
off.
that, here's the reason I say that, and this is why Confronting the Presidents has gotten off to such a great start, because I back everything I say up. Every single thing I say, I back up. Biden brought massive problems on the nation. He created those problems. He himself, not Congress, not some dopey agency, he created the open border. He created the massive inflation that went from 1.4 to more than 9% in a year. He did it. Biden did it by executive orders. And it's very rare that a president creates the problems. Usually the failed presidents like Hoover and Franklin Pierce and these people had no idea what they were doing, Jimmy Carter. Okay, they inherit the problems and they can't fix them. But Biden created the problems.
No, I think that's a good assessment. Now, I did have to ask this question. I saw you were on with our mutual friend Leland Vittert on News Nation, and did you have an out-of-body experience? You said, I don't think Obama was a bad president at all. In fact, you could put him in the good category.
Excellent question. Okay, so there's a special. It was supposed to run last night, but because of the Trump coverage, it's going to be Friday on News Nation at 9. That would be 8 Chicago time. See, I'm really with it. I know what time you guys are operating.
There you go.
Thanks for doing your homework.
Okay. So Barack Obama, if you step back, which very few people do, they're all emotion, they're all ideology all the time. Very hard-working president. Comes into office when the economy fell off a cliff. That's the only reason he beat McCain. Was because Bush, the younger, lost control of the economy, and it wasn't really Bush's fault. He wasn't paying attention to all of these low interest loans that were going out that people couldn't pay. And guess who wants those loans again? That would be Kamala Harris, hello, who knows absolutely nothing about the history of her country and could not care less. Anyway, Obama comes in, and he stabilizes stuff, and he makes a huge mistake by withdrawing troops from Iraq. So there is a big deficit on Obama. But he recognizes the mistake, unlike Biden. Okay? He recognizes it, and then it's pedal to the metal to kill the jihadists. And Trump takes that and then ups it. So if you read my book, Killing the Killers, you'll see. So Obama did well there. Obama also injected into our society, and this is very important, some hope for downtrodden African-American people. He got them back into the system, which, whether you like them or not, was an important thing. Now, along the way, he made mistakes in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with the Trayvon Martin thing, and he alienated a lot of white people, which is why, Trump won when Obama's term was finished, because the perception of Barack Obama was that he was favoring certain groups and he wasn't a fair man. But if you really look at what he did, and I worked with him very closely on Brothers Keeper, which is a big program in Chicago, I thought he was a man who was trying to help Americans. Not succeeding. I wouldn't put him in the top 20 presidents, but he's not as bad as some conservatives believe he is.
Bill O'Reilly is the host of No Spin News, weeknights 5 p.m. Chicago time at BillO'Reilly.com. His new book, Confronting the Presidents, No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden. Confronting the Presidents, Bill O'Reilly's new book. Bill, thanks for joining us as always.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Support our police and hire the police to personally protect you. You've watched the news. Rising crime has been affecting our everyday lives in Illinois more and more these days. Blue Star Security can protect you, your business, or your place of worship. Blue Star Security is the only security company in Chicago with over 900 off-duty police officers, all W-2 employees.
I'm Jeffrey Salvetti, Vice